Welcome to another edition of the Corner Booth Podcast. I'm Aaron Rand, along with Bill Brownstein and Leslie Chesterman here from the Snowden Deli. Want to thank them for being one of our sponsors, along with the folks at Empire Gold and Guaranteed Industries. And today, gang, it's just us. So we'll be doing a bit of griping, I'm guessing, since that's what we've been doing since we got here today.
And we're going to start off for years, actually.
We have. Let's start off by talking about what Canadians, whether you're a soccer fan or not, are all wrapped up in right now, and that's the World Cup. So
yes. It's kind of interesting because I saw this horrid look inside the world of Doha with John Oliver's program last week, and he not only talked, he showed pictures of some of the awful conditions in which these migrant workers having to live in a tiny booth-like situation, no showers, they were washing themselves in toilets and all the rest. It's absolutely disgusting. And you hear about everything to do with LGBTQ and all the rest in this complete lack of understanding.
As you describe
and yet then we see the Canadian team go. So your divisions.
Let me ask: should we have boycotted the games, or at least should there have been a diplomatic boycott?
There should have been a diplomatic boycott.
It should have maybe never gone there in the first place.
That's what they're saying now. And yet at the same time, you watch Canada against Belgium, and more than holding their own, and your loyalties are so split. On the one hand, you feel terrible, and on the other hand, you're rooting for your country. Yeah. And I don't know how people deal with all of this. I feel terrible for some of for the players, but at the same time, you look at how the Iranian team refused to sing. They are making statements. The German team covering their mouths and all the rest. They're making statements throughout. How they feel about their country's situation there, their inability to deal with everything, and yet at the same time you're cheering.
Yeah.
So you think we should not have gone at all to begin with?
Look, why are all these things coming up now? Why didn't they come up before all these decisions were made? But World Cup football, we say soccer, but really the fans will say football, is like a religion. So for me to think that a lot of people will not watch this is a big stretch. And I heard some French fans, because they often win, and they're saying we're only going to watch the games with France. And I'm like, what does that?
That's punishment.
Exactly. So it's all or nothing, and I can't imagine that diehard. I had a father who would literally watch World Cup, throwing sandwiches, screaming at the. It's such
at you or
big,
the television?
No, at the players, as if they got the sandwich. But it is a religion to these people, isn't it? The most watched besides Grand Prix.
Yeah.
I think Grand Prix is number one. The most watched sport, a televised sport. So
this is much
there
more
is no way people
will
not watch this. People wear the jerseys.
Yeah.
They get the family there.
But here's my question. I asked this actually on the radio the other day, and I said, if we don't think back that far, Canada boycotted diplomatically the Beijing Olympics.
That's right.
We sent no Canadian diplomats there.
Very good
Why?
point.
Because of human rights violations. What are we doing with two ministers in Qatar right now?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Absolutely
Don't
correct.
Understand why this happened, but hey, go Canada.
Because no one else was mobilizing around this. No other countries were either. Before, with the Olympics, that they were.
There's actually been an interesting take on this. I heard this from a couple of callers suggesting, well, maybe this, Qatar is doing this to basically put Qatar on the world map for people to find out who they are. So maybe this opens the eyes of people who had no idea what was going in Qatar. Maybe it does serve a purpose at the end of the day.
I think all is forgotten, though, once they start getting into the games. It's horrid when you think of what they went through, and these migrant workers, how they're treated like essentially slaves.
You can go to jail in Qatar if you are, in fact, are a homosexual. If they decide or discover that you are, it's a criminal offense.
Right.
And for as much money as that country makes through all its various oil.
And let's not talk about FIFA, by the way, at all, because they're obviously complicit in this, but that's a whole other discussion.
But that's my point about why wasn't this discussed before everything was built?
Yeah.
And now the guy who signed the deal way back when said, shouldn't have given it to them.
All right, let's move on and talk about something very close to the World Cup, and that's Santa. So here we are about a month before Christmas, and all of a sudden, a tradition, little guy sitting on Santa's lap, is suddenly in danger. When I first heard this story, I thought, wait a sec, is this because the Santas are objecting, or because parents don't want their kids sitting on Santa's lap, COVID, whatever else? What's this all about? Do you know?
It's very bizarre. But my first reaction was maybe they were worried about Santas. Maybe they were worried about kids catching COVID. Maybe They just want to be so politically correct as not to get into any trouble for warding off future lawsuits for various reasons. I don't know.
Is that what it's become? We've become that we're worried about lawsuits from kids sitting on Santa's lap?
Well, in case something untoward.
I feel sorry for the professional Santas who are doing a professional job and who are not handsy with the kids and stuff like this, because there are a lot of people who are great Santas and they're not, and we're always assuming the worst with kids, but, we all sat on Santa's lap. No?
I got booted off. Yeah.
You got booted off? Well, I did, but the picture, it looks like I'm being tortured.
Which is what most of the pictures of kids sitting on Santa's lap look like.
Do we ask the kids before we say, do you want to sit on Santa's lap?
No, we forced them to sit on Santa's lap.
Maybe we should ask
I remember
the kids
lining
what
up
they
at
want.
Eaton's as a kid, But what's interesting, this always brings to mind one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time. I think Your Significant Other was in a sequel called Bad Santa with Billy Bob Thornton, which the nastiest, most diabolical Santa of all.
Yeah, but that's not a good Santa.
By the way, this story, if I'm not mistaken, is about the Santas.
Yeah.
These Santas are having an issue. It's not the parents having the issue here.
Because of COVID?
Yes.
Well, just in general. They don't want to, COVID and everything else, they don't want to get to the point. I love, by the way, that you describe them as full-time and part-time Santas.
Right.
Like Santas in training.
Yes.
They work for 3 weeks.
We don't know who they are. We don't know their pedigree, so perhaps they shouldn't be allowed to necessarily be full-time Santas until they've had X number of pretend children sitting on their
for
lap.
God's sake?
Yeah, what about the elves? What about the reindeer? But
what about the reindeer?
Okay, couldn't you have the child in front of Santa at a desk with a paper?
Oh my!
And you put a plexiglass there, and little
idea.
Jimmy says, "I want some Lego," and Santa pretends to write it down, and when Jimmy's not looking, he throws it over.
Right, because nothing says Christmas like plexiglass. I think that's a great idea.
It's the new normal.
The Corner Booth Podcast is brought to you in part by Guaranteed Industries. In business since 1957, taking care of all your heating and air conditioning needs. And remember, they're a Lennox Premier dealer. Guaranteed Industries online at guaranteedindustries.com or call 514-342-3400. Elon Musk, Twitter. He's having a fight with everybody who has decided for one reason or another they don't like what he's doing. They want to quit Twitter. They want to get back. The thousands of people he fired. Now, I know Elon Musk, we've already established, is a genius, right? Certainly in terms of business up until now.
With social issues.
Okay. Got some issues. What do you think? Are you going to get off Twitter because Elon Musk has taken over?
The fact that Trump is back. I mean, not back
he's
yet.
not
He's
back
reinstated.
yet. But everybody says they're going to leave as soon as.
Yeah.
But people are what I love is watching Twitter now with all the people who were saying, "I'm leaving as soon as Trump is back tweeting." But and then they were going to leave even when they got permission to bring him
when
back.
he got elected, they were all
when he
moving
got
to Canada
elected
too, weren't they?
and all the rest. Yeah, no, it's unbelievable because I don't know how many people have left. I noticed that a lot of people have left. I've had followers who have left and have explained it's because of Trump, and there's been a lot of people noticing this kind of
So
drop.
tell me how naive I am. So we're bringing up Trump when we started talking about Twitter because that seems to be the big thing right now. The fact that he said after a poll, clearly an overwhelming majority, not even 52% said yes, have him back, 48 and change said
he
right.
wanted him back.
Right. So am I naive to think, okay, if we start all over again and we allow Trump back on Twitter, if he doesn't fall back to what he did before, inciting hate, inciting violence, shouldn't we allow that to happen, or am I naive to think that would happen?
It's definitely going to happen.
Trump is Trump. What's he going to start?
What's he going to stop?
Is he going to start
Mr. Nice
about
Guy
the crown?
Show pictures of him giving candy to kids.
Santa. Yeah.
Seriously.
So
which brings up my next topic, of course. Why are we so obsessed with U.S. politics? And I was speaking to my friend and videographer Dave here, and the point is we're not so much obsessed with U.S. politics as with Trump. He elicits some kind of visceral reaction in Canadians. I have never seen anything quite like it. Even the days of Bush, the Bushes.
Well, we were obsessed with Bush too, because
but not to the same extent.
Right.
And I mean, he makes us crazy.
I think though we've reached a point we've gone beyond Trump. And yes, every time there's a Trump story, we're involved. Herschel Walker.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Come on, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Lauren Boebert. I mean, there are a lot of interesting characters. Ron DeSantis.
Yeah.
Suddenly,
we'll have
Canadians
fun
are
with him when
exposed to
he
all
becomes,
of these people.
Right.
But the fact is that a lot of people think he will be, if he's not convicted, and of course he won't be convicted, Trump, they'll find some way to get out of this. He'll be the next GOP candidate, and we'll have 4 more fun years.
I thought that was kind of being bashed by people saying, no, he's now too old, he's a has-been, he's a loser.
Amongst Republicans now, yeah.
Right.
I mean, which is making for great copy. I mean, these guys who are now suddenly coming out against him, terrified of him before, except for your friend Cruz, who's still sticking by him.
Great front page of the New York Post a week or so ago, Trumpty Dumpty.
Trumpty Dumpty.
Sitting on
wonderful.
the wall.
Man from Florida.
Retired senior citizen from Florida,
But you guys are making a good point here, which is the Post said this and media said that. It's not just Trump. It's that we're inundated with all the media from the States.
Let's face it. U.S. politics is way more entertaining than Canadian politics.
Well, that's the other point. It's like we don't get nearly as wrapped around like what goes on in Canadian politics.
We have Pierre Poilievre and pretty much nobody else who says weird stuff. So.
Right. I mean,
we'll have our time with Mr. Poilievre.
I guess
we need another referendum.
Yeah, that's
what we need to break us from our obsession with American politics.
So let's use that as a springboard into the next topic, which is Bill C-13. Which, for whatever reason, now this is a federal bill, not a provincial bill. We're also focused on Bill 96 right now, and Bill 21 being challenged in the courts. This federal Bill C-13 might just upend everything here as far as Anglo rights in the province are concerned, because what it will do is allow federal institutions like banks, like the post office, to basically work entirely in French. So it would guarantee French rights for anybody who wanted to work in French, but it would not guarantee English rights for those same people, people who wanted to do it.
And everybody
isn't it also bad for business? I mean, it's about, yes, you can do that.
Except these are federal institutions, so bad for business.
But banks, banks.
Banks, I don't think so.
Yes, federally regulated. Wait a sec.
But
media
in terms
is federally regulated.
Right, but in terms of bad for business, people have to go to banks. Air Canada, that's a different story.
No, but think about this. You go to a bank, and if this bill actually goes through as is now, and we're not really sure, there's kind of some vagaries with respect to what's in it.
Where are people going to go?
What do you do if you want to get service in a bank in English, yet the person who's serving you is French-Canadian and says, my right is to do my business in French?
Then you go to a bank where somebody will serve you in English.
Yes,
I think
but there's no guarantee that someone will.
Yeah, but there always will be in English communities, and people have to go to a bank.
So we'll have token Anglos working in these institutions.
No, we'll have bilingual people who won't want to follow those rules, and you know what happens here is that you go somewhere, they start serving you in French, and somebody like my mother who wants to be served in English, well, she never has any problem because Francophones then speak to her in English because she's an 85-year-old woman. Now, would that be the same thing with me? I don't know, but I might just flip to French.
I hear those stories all the time. What I'm saying is, what happens if you get someone who's a bit more militant, and you're right, we see conversations switch between English and French all the time. That's the beauty of the city. But once this passes, if and when it does, if you're a Franco, you will not have a responsibility, if you want to be a hard ass, to speak to someone in English who's having trouble speaking French.
The bigger issue here is but the bigger issue is the silence coming from our federal leaders, from our Prime Minister, from Mr. Lametti and all the rest, who aren't saying anything. They're terrified. They're terrified of getting in the way of Mr. Legault and his government. They don't want to. Much of was as was the situation, Bill 96, Bill 21. They're being very quiet. They don't want to create ripples, waves, anything like that. That to me is more disturbing.
Now I'm going to raise a situation that I think is perhaps never going to happen, but I will point out that media, as I said, is a federally regulated business in this country. Radio, the CRTC, is a federal commission. If this bill becomes law, technically, if you're a Franco and you want to go work at an English newspaper or radio station, for example, or TV station, and choose to speak French because it's your guaranteed right to do so, you could in fact do that. So how far are we from the provincial government then saying, well, yes, we know you're an English radio station, like they did with the English school boards, and saying, but you know what, under provincial law, you have to be absorbed into the system. You can't run your own business. You can't set up your own rules and restrictions.
Interesting.
Something to think about.
Yeah, but that's extreme. I mean, really, are people willing to go that far?
I don't know. I remind you of the 1970s when you asked that question in the province of Quebec. You know what happened back then. What's to say it can't happen again?
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah,
Are we done with Vive le Québec Libre? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know if francophones, I mean, I'm not going to say don't care that much, but I don't know if they're willing to go that far. I mean, we're quand même in a province where people get along.
There's politics involved there, too.
You know?
I mean, if you're a devoir type person, are you really going to go to the Gazette? I mean, you have to fit in, or La Presse, or Journal. You have to fit into wherever the market
But
goes.
interesting approach, yes.
The Corner Booth podcast is brought to you in part by the Snowden Deli, serving Montrealers since 1946 and home of the city's best smoked meat sandwich, the Snowden Deli, DeCarry Boulevard, north of Queen Mary Road. Let's talk about something closer to home in Montreal, Bocce Gate this week.
Yeah.
Those senior citizens have their club, the Lackady Club. Where
Love
they
the
play
fact
bocce.
that these guys are protesting.
I love that. That's my favorite part of this story.
Yeah.
90-year-olds, 80-year-olds out in
Right.
front of City Hall playing the accordion, banging on drums, trying to get the city to do what it should be doing, because they've been doing it for the past 20 years, pay for the rent of this building so these seniors have a place to go.
Right.
And the city maybe starting to back down.
A little. Well, they're throwing a bit of money, but not
A third.
A third, yeah, but not enough to satisfy them. But this is a very angry group of seniors, and good on them for going out there protesting and all the rest. And you got to love the fact
But
that
doesn't that say something about their generation? Whereas my kids, I mean, I don't want to mention my kids badly, but here I go. But my kids are very happy to just look at their phones lying on a couch.
Yeah.
You know, these are generations of people who did get out and protest, who did, go to war and all kinds of things. I don't know about the next generation.
God help us if this ever goes to westbound and the lawn bowlers out there don't get stipends. I don't know how they survive, but I mean, if they
The lawn bowlers, yes.
lawn bowlers, if they get money from the
now that the city of
municipality.
Westmount's data has been hacked, perhaps they'll be able to contact all the lawn bowlers directly through the group stealing the data and making up a story about them not being able
But
to.
somehow I don't
bowl
think
again.
it'll elicit as much sympathy as the bocce people.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Although we had a suggestion, actually someone suggested, you know what, this is such a great opportunity for a company like, for example, Joey Saputo, to simply say, you know what,
Step in.
let's call it the Saputo Bocce Center, and they'll cough up the money.
Right.
I mean, how much are we talking about here? $200,000 a year. And the city's now going to pony up, about $60,000. And
out of a $6 billion budget. I don't think that's asking too much.
No.
Leslie, you didn't bring anything to eat today, which is the 10th consecutive week you've done that. But I know you have a new cookbook. You actually have two cookbooks.
Oh, right.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Kind
Bill
of you
made a note, because we're supposed to get into how to make, what did you say, how to make
The perfect chocolate
perfect
cake.
chocolate cake.
You know, it's interesting because I did a radio show on Radio Canada yesterday, and I didn't. It was a Jean Benoit theme, and I thought, I'm not going to make something chocolate, because to make the perfect chocolate cake, you're not going to use an old recipe by Jean Benoit. And the person who beat me made a chocolate cake, so obviously I was kind of full of it.
Yeah.
Buy good chocolate and follow my recipe, and
That's it?
And another thing about that is, like, damn it, if you're going to eat chocolate cake, eat chocolate cake. Like, enough with the low fat, everything. I'm just saying, it's all or nothing. Like, I can't understand people who want to replace something that's decadent and delicious and everything with something that's, has fewer Weight Watcher points. I mean, I'll have a banana then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, go for it.
Yeah,
I'm just
or a
saying,
banana cake.
Go big, or banana cake.
Ooh,
go big or go
carrot
home
cake.
when it comes to chocolate
Chocolate
cake.
Yeah,
Yes.
chocolate
And don't,
banana cake.
stuff like chocolate banana. Listen to you guys.
Just saying. I'm thinking of that.
You say that, and somebody
You're drooling?
who's at the table here, someone familiar with someone at the table here, produced a chocolate, which I thought was a chocolate recipe and all the rest, and was all natural vegetables and everything else, and tasted exactly like chocolate. It was some sort of, I don't know, I won't mention names here to get anybody in trouble. But Val.
She made she does a chocolate zucchini, all organic kind of.
Yes.
Oh, well, that's good. Chocolate
Yeah.
zucchini cake is good as long as you don't put too much zucchini, and then it tastes
Val
like
is
something from the
Aaron's
vegetable
significant
jar.
other.
I love that you say make the best chocolate cake, because the first thing I looked at was, you mean buy. Like, where would I buy them? I'm not making anything. So.
You know where you can buy great chocolate cake? It's at Coco Locale on Park Avenue. There's the chef owner's name is Rima.
Tiny little store.
Tiny little store, not open all the time, but boy, she makes better chocolate cake than I do.
Noted.
And on the subject
Coco
of chocolate
Locale.
cake,
Coco Locale, Rima.
White Lotus.
Well, wait a sec. Before you go to White Lotuses, we were talking before, and this has come up a bunch. We were talking about how expensive, the big thing now is lettuce. Lettuce has gone crazy.
I did a big piece on this last week,
and I have one piece, and my advice, of course, is always, because I know it's getting more and more expensive, as all vegetables are, bagged salad clearly is the way to go.
You're so wrong.
Aaron,
Ignorant.
All the vegetables are in it. You got
Aaron,
your
you
lettuce,
ignorant.
you got your carrots, you got your everything is in it.
I was just.
That's why you don't buy it.
How all this began, I did this story. I was looking. Iceberg. It's one of the lesser lettuces.
Yes.
But you need it only.
One of the lesser lettuces?
Yes.
As in nutritionally, it's not worth anything?
It's crap lettuce.
Crap. Basically,
Okay.
it's water and it's
water
nothing.
and it's
However,
green.
one of my favorite salads is a wedge salad,
Yes.
which
Nothing like a
absolutely
wedge.
requires iceberg lettuce, and because basically you can overpower
I'm
it
sorry.
with.
Beyond the iceberg lettuce for a wedge salad, what else is in a wedge salad other than dressing?
No.
Bacon
Is there
and
more?
blue cheese
Bacon,
dressing.
ranch,
cheese dressing.
Ranch dressing.
I see.
You make your
Okay.
own, and you crumbled blue cheese,
Recipe in my book.
red onions, yes, and one of my favorites. So in my surgery, it used to be 99 cents to get a pretty
Yeah, they
crappy.
give it away.
They give it away. Basically, if you bought anything else, buy some dog food, they'll give you an iceberg lettuce for about 99 cents. Yeah. Suddenly, not only I couldn't find it, then when I did find it, they were like $6.99, $7.99,
lettuce.
$8.99.
Wow.
So I did this story, and then I found out this shortage was everywhere. Basically, romaine lettuce even more difficult to find, and in fact, Mandy's of all places, the magical salad chain here, mythical magical salad chain here, even had to take their Caesar salad off the menu, as have a lot of other restaurants, because they couldn't find it. And one guy was telling me that basically he had to take it off because he would have had to charge more for a Caesar salad than a steak if he were to keep it on the menu. And you notice that a bunch of restaurants don't carry it, or weren't carrying it for a while. I don't know if the supply is any better. But
Again, you seem to be
situation.
making the point that I'm trying to drive home, which is bagged salad is the way to go. It's full of lettuce and has other stuff in
tell
it as
them.
well.
I would like to explain-
and wait a sec, it's been triple washed. It says so right on the bag.
Yes.
They say to wash it anyway.
One
though.
bad leaf, tell them.
What?
Okay, the thing about bag salads is they're assembled at different. The lettuces are assembled from different places,
Okay.
so they're all different ages. So if you have one old piece of lettuce in your bag salad or an old piece of broccoli in your bag salad, the whole thing will go off quite quickly. And when you open the bag salad, and by the way, what's in there is the most lifeless, heartless, soulless salad ever.
Wait a sec,
you
a sec.
smell it,
She's right.
smell it, and see what you think.
And the fact that they put croutons in there with
Yeah,
it.
what the croutons in there and a plastic
separately
bag of dressing.
Separately bagged.
That is the laziest thing.
And I will tell you, that's interesting you say smell it, because you could tell it. So if it's mushy, you know it's gone bad, you don't eat it. But
They color it
it's
too.
like $6 for a seriously large bag of salad. But you know what?
If you could find it even.
I eat this every day. This
Okay.
has become
And-
a staple
Wow.
in my diet. But I will tell you that since I lost my sense of smell
And taste.
from COVID,
You still don't have it back?
no, I have a distorted sense of smell now. I'm not
And
sure
a
how
very
it
distorted
works.
sense of
Thank
taste.
you.
Yes.
You open that back salad, I'm smelling it. It smells fine to me because they don't really smell very much at all. And I'm
Oh, well,
empty.
that's a great
that's an
endorsement.
endorsement. Yeah,
And I'm still here.
terrific endorsement.
So
Bagged
buy bag salad
way to go.
if you can't
Yes.
smell.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Bag
And
salad
you
is
have
the
no
way to
taste.
go. The Corner Booth Podcast is brought to you in part by Empire Gold, paying the most for gold and silver in all your collectibles. 5593 Paré at Devonshire. Empire Gold, where you get paid right on the spot. All the details online, empiregold.ca. We have time for one
White
more
Lotus.
thing? White Lotus. Okay,
First
you're not
season,
happy with
terrific.
season 2.
Season 2 sucks. It's a dud.
That's
I'm
so
sorry.
sad.
It's a little slow moving.
Slow. We're like
It's a
halfway
slow
through,
moving.
and there's no adventure
Because the
whatsoever.
hotel manager character is not there. He was the best.
He was
Yes,
killed.
that's true.
Killed off.
Yes, he
but
was-
now they're in
yeah.
another location. They were in Hawaii first,
they're
and
there.
now they're in Sicily.
Yeah.
And as
Sicily.
beautiful as the hotel is, and as beautiful as the photography is, and the music is phenomenal, there's no interesting characters. You know something bad is going to occur because that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Jennifer Coolidge, who won an Emmy the first time around, has returned and essentially plays. I thought she was an interesting actor, but basically she plays Jennifer Coolidge.
Yeah, she
whether
always
she's doing
plays the
Old
same,
Navy
yeah.
commercials, whether she's doing she's the same.
Mix it up.
I'm holding out hope here that it will start to pick up. I know you're right. It's pretty deep in. We're like 4 episodes
Yeah.
in, I think. But it has been renewed for a 3rd season, so that's good
What
news.
does that mean?
It means it could get better
It means
next
the
year.
first season was really
Yeah.
good.
Now, the last thing before we get out of here, the last thing I want to bring up is a story that was in the paper this week. they're spending money, they haven't told us how much, to resurface, put a new floor surface in at the Olympic Stadium. You know, so they can attract teams to...
For bocce.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea. I had a conversation with David Hertel, who used to at one point be the head of the Olympic Installations Board. He defended the idea. And I'm asking, why are we spending, and I'm sure it'll cost, if not hundreds of thousands, millions, to resurface the floor of the Olympic Stadium? I asked, what for? For what? For monster trucks? For the car show? We need a new floor? Put plywood down. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And he says, well, it's to attract other events to come to the Olympic Stadium. You can't even attract people to come to the Olympic Stadium. What are you going to attract by spending money?
True, they can't even put cars there because they're worried about... You know, the very interesting thing is I posed to Mr. Hertel when he was with the Olympic in charge of the stadium and all, why don't you just rip the sucker down? And he said, you know why?
And how much it would cost?
Well, not only that, it would go right through the metro system. It would go like right
at station underneath.
Wow. It would destroy it. They have to keep it going. Otherwise... It's so entrenched inside.
I don't understand why they don't start. It's a terrible place to watch an event. It always has been, especially a sport like baseball. Although he makes the point now that they have a new acoustic system in the Olympic Stadium.
How much did that cost?
A recent show that they had, he said it's the acoustics are great now. And I said, maybe it's unfair that I compare the acoustics there to what it was like when we saw Michael Jackson playing the Olympic Stadium.
Right,
They've improved it since then.
Yeah, good.
But I'm not sure we should be spending money on a new floor at the Big O.
No.
What's next?
Who's coming back to the Big O?
Nobody.
Yeah. Sorry, David. That's it. We're done.
We didn't even get to The Crown.
The Crown. That's another TV show.
I heard about it.
There you go. You're a big Crown fan, right?
No, you know, everybody's
Season 6 coming. They said it's going to be the end.
I thought this was an excellent season of The Crown, and because I think the acting is great. Dominic West doesn't look at all like Prince Charles.
He's like too dashing.
But maybe that's a good thing.
I don't watch
maybe that's a good thing. And the Diana girl is very pathetic.
She's like 6'2".
She's much taller than him.
Yes.
But you know, I was listening to a YouTube video because when I get up, I watch them, and like you guys don't, and. It was this guy called Paul Burrell, YouTube videos. Paul Burrell who was Diana's butler, saying that it's so wrong. So the question is that this is going to actually change, and everybody's mad about this in England. All the royalists are saying this is changing our perception of the royal family for the worse. They're taking huge liberties.
Chuck comes off very well in this, and Diana not so much.
No, he's a bit of a creep. But the thing is, they're kind of changing the way people are seeing the royal family for the worse.
Is ruining his plans.
Yeah, well, that's it. But I mean, it's quite interesting
and
that
I
a series can be based
better.
on a real family. I mean, not that I have that much sympathy for the royal family, but they're taking massive liberties with what people are doing and the way people are.
And how come Randy Andy comes off unscathed?
You know, well, you know, if you had Bill Brownstein on the Netflix series on the Brownsteins, and they did it wrong, wouldn't you be angry?
I would be, but that's never going to happen.
Again, I don't watch The Crown.
Why not?
Although, as you're discussing this, I think, wouldn't it be great down the road if they do the Trumps?
Aaron, I'm there for that. And I don't care how they depict them.
Start scribbling.
I hope they do it,
That's it. That's this edition of the Corner Booth Podcast from Stoughton Deli. We'll see you again next week. Thanks.